The massive throne room gleamed with alien metal and strange lights. Empress Zarathek sat on her crystal throne, her green scales catching the light as she stared at the holographic display before her. The reptilian ruler of the Dominion Empire had conquered 400 star systems in her lifetime. Today she would add one more to her collection. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the projection, his blue uniform crisp and his face calm. Behind him stood Captain Lisa Bennett and Commander Ryan Phillips, both looking equally composed. The Empress found their lack of fear amusing. Most species begged for mercy when they first met her. "You are the leaders of the species called humans," the Empress said, her voice echoing through the throne room. "Your people have recently developed faster than light travel. This means you now fall under Dominion law." Morrison nodded slightly. "We understand you wish to speak with us, Empress. We appreciate the contact." The Empress leaned forward on her throne. "This is not a conversation, human. This is an ultimatum. You have 30 of your days to submit to Dominion rule. Your ships will be added to our fleet. Your worlds will pay tribute. Your people will serve the Empire." "And if we refuse?" Morrison asked quietly. General Mordek, the Empress's military advisor, stepped forward. His red scales were darker than the Empress's, marking him as a warrior caste. "Refusal means death. We have destroyed entire civilizations for less. Your 50 ships are nothing against our million-vessel armada." Captain Bennett spoke for the first time. 50 ships? "Our scouts have counted your pathetic fleet," the Empress said with a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "Barely enough to patrol a single star system. Do you really think you can challenge an empire that spans half the galaxy?" Morrison looked at his officers, then back at the Empress. "We respectfully decline your offer of submission." The throne room fell silent. Even the Empress's advisors looked shocked. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever simply refused without at least trying to negotiate. "You decline?" the Empress repeated slowly. "Yes, humanity values its freedom. We will not submit to foreign rule." The Empress stood from her throne, her full height of 3 meters making her tower over her advisors. "You understand what this means? We will send our fleets to destroy every human world. Your species will be extinct within a year." Morrison's expression remained calm. "We understand the threat. We still decline." "Foolish creatures, General." Mordek growled. "Your bravery will be remembered for the few weeks you have left to live." Commander Phillips stepped forward. "If I may ask, how many species have accepted your ultimatum willingly?" "All of them eventually," the Empress said. "Some fight at first, but they all surrender when they see our true power. You will too." "Perhaps," Morrison said. "But not today." The Empress's yellow eyes narrowed. "You speak as if you have some hidden strength. What could a primitive species like yours possibly have that would concern the Dominion Empire?" Morrison smiled slightly, and something in that smile made several of the Empress's advisors shift uncomfortably. "Nothing you would believe if we told you." "Try me," the Empress challenged. "Human industrial capacity," Morrison said simply. The Empress laughed again. "Your 50 ships represent your entire industrial output. We have seen your primitive factories on Earth. Your entire planet could not build one of our destroyers." "You may be right," Morrison agreed. "Earth alone, probably, could not." "What does that mean?" General Mordek demanded. Morrison looked directly at the Empress. "It means you should have sent more scouts." The Empress felt a chill run down her spine, but pushed the feeling away. These humans were trying to bluff their way out of certain death. "Our intelligence is perfect. You have 50 ships, 12 colonies, and no significant military infrastructure." "Your scouts found what we wanted them to find," Captain Bennett said quietly. "Enough of this," the Empress snapped. "Fleet Commander Kethvar, prepare the 7th Battle Fleet. 10,000 ships should be more than sufficient to deal with these delusional humans. A tall alien with blue scales bowed. It will be done, Empress. How soon do you want them eliminated? Immediately. I want every human world burning within 2 weeks. Make it public. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Dominion. Morrison nodded as if he had expected this response. Then we have nothing more to discuss. We will prepare for your arrival. The Empress leaned forward. You will die screaming, human. Your ships will burn and your planets will be ash. This I promise you. Perhaps, Morrison said again, or perhaps you will discover that humanity is not as helpless as you believe. The transmission ended, leaving the throne room in silence. The Empress stared at the empty space where the humans had been, feeling oddly unsettled by their confidence. They were bluffing, General Mordek said finally. No species could hide significant military assets from our scouts. Of course they were, the Empress agreed, but something in Morrison's smile lingered in her memory. Send additional scouts to human space. I want to know everything about their defenses before our fleet arrives. Yes, Empress. As her advisors filed out to prepare for war, Empress Zarathek remained on her throne, staring at the stars beyond her palace windows. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever made her feel uncertain. But something about the humans bothered her. Their calm acceptance of war against impossible odds suggested either madness or knowledge she did not possess. She decided it must be madness. No primitive species could threaten the might of the Dominion Empire. 3 weeks had passed since the ultimatum, and Intelligence Officer Veltar rushed through the corridors of the Imperial Palace. His scanner tablet showed readings that made no sense. He burst into the throne room where Empress Zarathek was, reviewing tribute reports from her outer territories. Empress, we have a problem, Veltar said, his voice shaking. The Empress looked up from her crystal display. What kind of problem? The humans. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive activity in their space. Define massive, General Mordek said from his position beside the throne. Veltar activated his holographic display. 3 weeks ago, we counted 50 human vessels. Today, we count over 3,000, and the number is growing every hour. The Empress stood slowly. That is impossible. No species can construct ships that quickly. The readings are confirmed, Empress. Multiple sensor arrays all show the same data. Large-scale construction projects across dozens of human star systems. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations Emergency Assembly. The Great Hall buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from every nation waited for answers. Behind Carter stood Admiral Morrison and his senior staff, their faces grim but determined. Fellow leaders of humanity, Carter began. 3 weeks ago, we received an ultimatum from an alien empire calling itself the Dominion. They demanded our submission or threatened our destruction. Murmurs filled the assembly hall. Many representatives had heard rumors, but few knew the complete truth. What I am about to tell you will shock many of you, Carter continued. The human space fleet you know about, our 50 exploration and research vessels, represents only a tiny fraction of our true capabilities. Admiral Morrison stepped forward. For the past 15 years, since we first detected alien signals from deep space, humanity has been preparing for this moment. The ships you see in our public fleet are scouts and communication vessels. Our real strength has been hidden. Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez activated a massive holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked locations throughout the asteroid belt, around Jupiter, and in the outer planets. Hidden mining operations, Rodriguez explained. Automated shipyards, AI-controlled construction facilities. We have been building in secret while maintaining the appearance of a small, peaceful civilization. Captain Lisa Bennett pointed to streams of data flowing across the display. Every major asteroid in the belt has been hollowed out and converted into a shipyard. Automated systems work around the clock, building vessels designed specifically for deep space warfare. The Brazilian representative raised her hand. How is this possible? We have budget oversight of all space programs. Black budget projects, Carter replied, funded through a combination of military spending and private corporations. Every major space company on Earth has been part of this effort. Rodriguez brought up construction statistics. Human manufacturing principles emphasize automation and rapid production. While other species apparently take years to build a single capital ship, our AI-guided systems can complete a supercarrier in 2 weeks. Supercarriers? The Indian representative asked. Admiral Morrison smiled. 5-kilometer-long vessels carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Each one serves as a mobile base for hundreds of smaller attack craft. Commander Ryan Phillips added technical details. Our ships use modular construction, standardized components that can be assembled quickly and repaired in the field. Every system has multiple backups, and every backup has backups. Back on the Dominion homeworld, Empress Zarathek paced angrily in her private chambers. The latest intelligence reports covered her desk, each one more disturbing than the last. "Show me the tactical analysis," she demanded. General Mordek activated a holographic display showing human ship designs captured by long-range sensors. Their vessels are unlike anything we have encountered. Instead of specialized ships for different roles, they appear to build adaptable platforms. What does that mean? A single human ship can reconfigure itself for multiple mission types. Fighter carrier, heavy bombardment, electronic warfare, troop transport. They can change roles during battle. The Empress studied the images. Our fleet. Commanders will not know how to respond to such tactics. There is more, Empress. Human weapons appear designed to exploit weaknesses in standard Dominion shielding technology. How could they know our shield frequencies? We have never fought them before. Unknown. But their weapons create harmonic resonances that cause cascade failures in energy barriers. On Earth, Admiral Morrison briefed his expanded command staff in the hidden facility beneath Colorado. The massive chamber housed holographic displays showing every human ship and facility across multiple star systems. Fleet status report, Morrison requested. Vice Admiral Karen Foster consulted her tablet. 850 supercarriers completed. Full target strength of 1,000 should be reached within 1 week. Fleet Captain Tony Alexander added, "Support vessels bring our total strength to over 12,000 ships. Each supercarrier group includes destroyers, frigates, supply ships, and specialized support craft." Strategic Coordinator Dr. Amy Richardson presented intelligence analysis. Dominion tactics rely on overwhelming numbers and standard formation fighting. Their ships are powerful but inflexible. Once committed to a battle plan, they rarely adapt. Morrison studied the tactical projections. And our advantages? Mobility, adaptability, and redundancy, Dr. Richardson replied. Our ships can change tactics mid-battle. Our AI coordination allows for complex maneuvers impossible with biological crews alone. Captain Bennett reported from the communications station. Dominion long-range scouts are probing our outer defenses. They are clearly confused by what they are seeing. Let them be confused, Morrison said. The longer they delay their attack, the stronger we become. In her throne room, Empress Zarathek convened an emergency war council. Her top military commanders stood before massive displays showing human space bristling with activity. Fleet Commander Kethvar, your assessment, the Empress demanded. The blue-scaled commander studied the data. The humans have violated every principle of galactic warfare we understand. Their construction rate suggests industrial capacity greater than some of our core worlds. That is impossible. They are a primitive species. Perhaps we have underestimated them, Empress. The Empress's eyes flashed dangerously. Are you suggesting the mighty Dominion Empire should fear a species that achieved spaceflight only decades ago? I am suggesting caution, Empress. These humans are unlike any opponent we have faced. Then we will teach them why the galaxy fears the Dominion. Double the attack fleet. 20,000 ships instead of 10. General Mordek hesitated. Empress, perhaps we should attempt negotiation. If their industrial capacity is truly this advanced, war could be costly. The Empress's roar echoed through the throne room. Negotiation? With primitives who dare refuse our generous offer of submission? Never. We will crush them completely and use their burning worlds as an example to the galaxy. As the War Council dispersed to prepare for battle, none of them noticed the small human probe that had been silently observing their meeting from beyond the edge of their sensor range. The Dominion War Council chamber had never seen such tension. Empress Zarathek sat rigidly on her throne, while her military advisors presented intelligence reports that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic warfare. General, Mordek pointed to holographic displays showing human fleet movements. The enemy has achieved their stated goal of 1,000 supercarriers. Each vessel is accompanied by support ships, bringing their total fleet strength to over 15,000 vessels. Numbers mean nothing, the Empress said, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. Our ships are larger and more powerful. That may not matter, Empress, Chief Strategist Velnek interjected. Human tactical doctrine appears to violate several fundamental principles of space combat. Fleet Commander Kethvar activated detailed scans of human vessels. Their ships can reconfigure during battle. A carrier can become a battleship. A transport can become a bomber. We have never faced such adaptability. The Empress studied the alien ship designs with growing unease. What else have your scouts discovered? Human weapons technology specifically targets our shield harmonics, General Mordek reported. Our defensive systems appear to be useless against their attacks. How could they know our shield frequencies? The Empress demanded. Unknown, but the implications are clear. Our tactical advantage may be compromised. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship UES Defiance, Admiral Morrison conducted his final strategy briefing before the expected Dominion assault. The massive vessel's command center buzzed with activity as officers from across the human fleet participated, via holographic link. Captain Lisa Bennett stood beside Morrison as they reviewed intelligence gathered by their stealth probes. Dominion fleet strength is confirmed at 20,000 vessels. They have doubled their original attack force. Vice Admiral Karen Foster added tactical analysis. Enemy ships follow rigid hierarchical command structures. Eliminate their command vessels, and the rest become confused and defensive. Fleet Captain Tony Alexander presented the human battle plan. Our strategy focuses on mobility and concentrated firepower. We avoid formation fighting and instead use three-dimensional tactics. Commander Ryan Phillips explained the technical advantages. Human. Ships coordinate through AI networks. We can execute complex maneuvers impossible for biological crews operating under traditional command structures. Dr. Amy Richardson displayed the battlefield analysis. The Dominion expects us to fight like every other species they have conquered. Static formations, predictable tactics, surrender when losses become heavy. Morrison smiled grimly. They are about to learn that humans fight differently. In the outer colonies, human civilians watched massive fleets departing for the battle zone. On Mars, children pressed against viewing domes as supercarriers larger than cities moved past the red planet. The vessels gleamed with fresh armor plating and bristled with weapons designed specifically to defeat Dominion technology. Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez supervised final preparations from the hidden command center beneath Luna. All vessels report, ready for combat. Automated shipyards continue production in case we need reinforcements. How long can we sustain production? Morrison asked. Indefinitely, Admiral. Our manufacturing systems are fully automated and self-repairing. As long as we have raw materials, we can build ships. Back on the Dominion homeworld, Empress Zarathek received disturbing reports from her outer territories. Several governors had sent private communications expressing doubts about the war against humanity. Governor Kelvar of the Rim territories transmitted from his palace. Empress, perhaps we should reconsider this conflict. If the humans possess such advanced manufacturing, war could destabilize the entire empire. The Empress's response was swift and brutal. Security forces stormed the governor's palace within hours. By evening, his execution was broadcast across the empire as a warning to others who might question her judgment. Let this be a lesson, the Empress announced to her remaining governors. The Dominion Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We conquer or we destroy. There is no middle ground. Despite her public confidence, private intelligence reports continued to worry the Empress. Human industrial capacity appeared to exceed that of many core Dominion worlds. Their tactical innovations suggested military thinking beyond anything. In Imperial databases, Fleet Commander Kethvar presented the final battle plans to his senior officers. The humans have concentrated their forces near a nebula in their outer territories. We will engage them there and crush their fleet in one decisive battle. What if their capabilities are greater than we estimate? Asked Captain Morvel, one of Kethvar's most experienced ship commanders. Then we will learn the extent of their power and adjust accordingly, Kethvar replied. But remember, we have 20,000 ships against their 15,000. Superior numbers will prevail. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as the human fleet took position near the Veil Nebula. The massive formation looked insignificant against the backdrop of space, but each vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering and determination. Captain Bennett reported from the tactical station. All ships in position, Admiral. Dominion fleet approaching from Galactic North. Estimated contact in 6 hours. Lieutenant Greg Murphy, the ship's tactical officer, studied incoming sensor data. Enemy formation follows standard Dominion attack. Patterns. Battleships in front, carriers in the middle, support vessels in the rear. Predictable, Morrison observed. Dr. Richardson, are your weapons modifications ready? The scientist nodded from her position at the weapons console. Cascade generators are online across the fleet. Once we target their shield network, the chain reaction should disable thousands of ships simultaneously. Commander Phillips coordinated with engineering teams throughout the fleet. All vessels report battle ready. Engines at full power, weapons charged, fighter wings prepared for launch. Morrison opened communications to the entire human fleet. Officers and crew of the Earth Defense Force, in a few hours we will face the largest alien armada in recorded history. They expect us to fight like every other species they have conquered. They expect us to surrender when the odds seem impossible. Across 15,000 ships, human crews listened to their admiral's words. From the massive supercarriers to the smallest frigates, men and women prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of their species. But we are not like other species, Morrison continued. We do not surrender. We do not yield. When faced with impossible odds, humans find a way to win. Today we will show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. On the Dominion flagship, Empress Zarathek observed the approaching battle through long-range sensors. The human fleet looked pathetically small compared to her massive armada. Soon the upstart species would join the hundreds of other civilizations that had fallen before Dominion might. "Begin the attack," she commanded. Fleet Commander Kethvar signaled his ship captains. "All vessels, advance to attack positions. Today we add humanity to our list of conquered species." The massive Dominion fleet moved forward through space like a dark tide, their ships bristling with weapons and confidence. 20,000 vessels against 15,000 seemed like favorable odds for a quick victory. Neither side realized they were about to participate in the largest space battle in galactic history, one that would change the balance of power throughout the known universe and establish humanity as a force that could not be ignored or conquered. The Battle of the Veil Nebula began with the largest display of military might the galaxy had ever witnessed. Fleet Commander Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching 20,000 Dominion vessels advance in perfect formation toward the human defensive line. "Maintain battle formation," Kethvar commanded his captains. "Standard attack pattern. Battleships will break their line, then carriers will finish the survivors." The Dominion fleet moved like a single massive organism, each ship in its designated position according to tactics perfected over centuries of conquest. The sight had broken the will of countless species before the first shot was fired. Admiral Morrison watched the approaching armada from the bridge of the UES Defiance. The human fleet appeared tiny in comparison, 15,000 ships facing an enemy force that outnumbered them significantly. But Morrison showed no concern as he studied the tactical displays. "All ships, implement Formation Delta," Morrison ordered. "Let them see what human ingenuity looks like." Across the human fleet, captains acknowledged the order. Instead of maintaining static battle lines like every other species the Dominion had faced, the human ships began moving in complex three-dimensional patterns that confused enemy sensors. Captain Lisa Bennett coordinated the center battle group as hundreds of supercarriers launched their fighter wings. Unlike the predictable attack patterns the Dominion expected, human fighters swarmed in all directions, attacking from above and below the traditional plane of battle. Lieutenant Gregg Murphy monitored enemy communications from his tactical station. "Dominion Fleet Command is requesting clarification on our formation. They do not understand our movement patterns." "Good," Morrison replied. "Confusion is our first advantage." The opening exchange of fire shattered the silence of space. Dominion. Battleships unleashed massive energy beams that could slice through asteroid fields. But their targeting systems, designed for traditional formation fighting, struggled to track the constantly moving human vessels. Human return fire was different from anything the Dominion had encountered. Instead of trying to match the aliens, massive energy weapons, human ships fired precisely targeted bursts, designed to exploit specific weaknesses in Dominion shield technology. Commander Ryan Phillips reported from the engineering station. "Enemy shields are responding exactly as Dr. Richardson predicted. Their harmonic frequencies are creating resonance patterns we can exploit." Fleet Captain Tony Alexander coordinated the flanking maneuver that demonstrated humanity's most shocking tactical innovation. While Dominion doctrine emphasized preserving valuable ships and experienced crews, human commanders routinely ordered damaged vessels to ram enemy formations. "UES Intrepid is critically damaged," reported Captain Sarah Martinez from the destroyer's bridge, requesting permission to execute ramming protocol. "Granted," Morrison replied without hesitation. "All crew to evacuation pods. Thank you for your service." Within minutes, the crew of the Intrepid transferred to nearby ships while their vessel accelerated toward a cluster of Dominion cruisers. The impact destroyed 6 enemy ships and created a gap in their formation that human fighters immediately exploited. Empress Zarathek watched the battle unfold from her command ship, her confidence slowly giving way to confusion and then alarm. The humans were fighting like no species she had ever encountered. "Why are they destroying their own ships?" she demanded. General Mordek studied the tactical displays with growing unease. "It appears to be deliberate. They sacrifice damaged vessels to create tactical advantages." "Madness," the Empress muttered. But the effectiveness of the tactic was undeniable. Human ramming attacks had created multiple breaches in the Dominion formation. Fleet Commander Kethvar tried to adapt to the chaotic battle conditions. "All ships, Titan formation. Do not let them isolate individual vessels." But the Dominion's rigid command structure could not respond quickly enough to human tactical innovations. By the time orders reached individual ship captains, the fast moving human formations had already shifted to exploit new opportunities. Dr. Amy Richardson's scientific team achieved the breakthrough that would determine the battle's outcome. From her position aboard the UES Defiance, she coordinated the deployment of the Cascade weapon system across the entire human fleet. "Admiral, we have confirmed lock on the Dominion shield network," Richardson reported. "Their ships are all connected through a shared defensive grid. If we can create a cascade failure, it will affect thousands of vessels simultaneously." Morrison made the decision that would reshape galactic history. All ships target the shield network. Execute cascade protocol. Across the human fleet, specialized weapons fired simultaneously at predetermined points in the Dominion formation. The attacks seemed insignificant compared to the massive energy exchanges filling space around them, but their effect was devastating. The Dominion shield network had been designed to share power and coordinate defenses across multiple ships. What the aliens had not anticipated was a weapon specifically designed to turn that coordination against them. Lieutenant Murphy watched his sensors as the cascade effect began. Shield failures spreading through enemy formation, estimated 30% of their fleet now defenseless. The human fleet immediately shifted tactics to exploit the breakthrough. Kinetic weapons that had been useless against protected ships now tore through undefended hulls. Entire squadrons of Dominion vessels found themselves helpless against attacks. They could not stop. Fleet Commander Kethvar felt his confidence crumble as reports flooded in from across his fleet. "Shield grid failure in sectors 7 through 12. Massive hull breaches on multiple vessels. Request immediate assistance." The Empress demanded answers. "How could primitives develop weapons that defeat our most advanced defenses?" "Unknown." "Empress," General Mordek replied, "but the effect is spreading. Our tactical advantage is disappearing." Captain Bennett executed the final phase of the human battle plan. With thousands of Dominion ships defenseless, the human fleet concentrated its firepower on enemy command vessels. Without their rigid hierarchy, the alien formation began to collapse. "Dominion flagship is withdrawing," reported Commander Phillips. "Enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down." Morrison opened communications to the retreating aliens. "Fleet Commander, Kethvar, this is Admiral Morrison. You have fought bravely, but your position is hopeless. Withdraw your remaining ships and spare your crews." Kethvar stared at the tactical display showing less than half his original force still combat-capable. The humans had achieved something no species had ever done. They had defeated a Dominion fleet in open battle. "All ships withdraw to minimum. Safe distance," Kethvar ordered. "Cease fire and prepare for retreat." The Empress watched in stunned silence as her supposedly invincible armada fled the battlefield. 20,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 9,000 in a matter of hours. The primitive humans had not only survived her attack, they had won decisively. "This is impossible," she whispered. Admiral Morrison surveyed the aftermath of humanity's first major space battle. Human losses had been significant, but acceptable. The Dominion had lost more than half their fleet and retreated in disorder. "Damage." "Report," Morrison requested. Captain Bennett consulted her displays. 230 ships lost. 412 damaged but repairable. Enemy losses estimated at over 11,000 vessels. "And our industrial capacity?" "Unaffected, Admiral. Automated shipyards are already beginning construction of replacement vessels." Morrison looked out at the debris field where the battle had raged. "Signal Earth. Tell them the Dominion attack has been repelled. Humanity has won its first victory." The message that reached Earth sparked celebrations across every human world. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had defeated the galaxy's most powerful empire, but Morrison knew this was only the beginning. The Empress would not accept defeat easily, and humanity would need to be ready for whatever came next. Empress Zarathek paced through her throne room like a caged predator, her claws scraping against the polished floor. The reports from the Veil Nebula battle covered every surface, each document a testament to the impossible defeat of her forces. 11,000 ships, she repeated for the 100th time. 11,000 ships destroyed by primitives who should not even possess spaceflight. General Mordek stood nervously by the massive windows overlooking the Imperial capital. The fleet. Commanders are requesting reinforcements and new tactical guidance. They do not understand how to fight these humans. Neither do I, the Empress admitted quietly. In 300 years of conquest, no species has ever defeated a Dominion fleet. Now these upstart humans have destroyed half our attack force in a single battle. Intelligence Officer Veltar entered the throne room carrying yet another disturbing report. Empress, our long-range sensors detect human fleet movements toward our outer territories. They appear to be launching a counterattack. The Empress whirled to face him. Counterattack? After one battle, they think they can assault the Dominion Empire? The evidence is clear, Empress. Multiple human battle groups are advancing toward our border systems. Their automated shipyards have already replaced their battle losses and added additional vessels. Meanwhile, Admiral Morrison coordinated humanity's first offensive operation from the bridge of the UES Defiance. The human fleet had grown to 18,000 ships in the weeks following their victory, with new vessels rolling out of hidden shipyards every day. Strategic assessment, Morrison requested from his senior staff. Vice Admiral Karen Foster displayed intelligence gathered from captured Dominion databases. Enemy outer territories are lightly defended. Most of their fleet strength was concentrated in the attack force we defeated. Fleet Captain Tony Alexander added tactical analysis. Dominion border systems rely on orbital defense platforms and small patrol fleets. They are not prepared for major fleet actions. Dr. Amy Richardson presented her latest weapons research. We have refined the Cascade weapon system based on battle data. The new version can disable larger ships more efficiently. Captain Lisa Bennett reported from the navigation station. First target is the Kelvon system, a major Dominion supply depot. Estimated enemy strength is 300 ships plus orbital defenses. Morrison studied the tactical projections. Standard doctrine would suggest overwhelming force for an assault on a fortified system. What do you recommend? Commander Ryan Phillips smiled grimly. Standard doctrine assumes the enemy knows how to fight us. I suggest we continue our tactical innovation. The human fleet arrived in the Kelvon system like a storm front, their ships spreading across multiple vectors that confused the Dominion. Defenders. System Commander Velcor had never seen anything like the human approach. Alert all defensive platforms, Velcor ordered from his orbital command station. Unknown vessels are approaching from multiple directions. Sir, we count over 2,000 human ships, his tactical officer reported. They are not following standard attack patterns. Impossible. Intelligence reports indicated humans have primitive space capabilities. The human assault on Kelvon demonstrated the evolution of their tactical thinking. Instead of attacking the heavily defended orbital installations directly, human ships deployed thousands of small drones that swarmed through the system like metallic locusts. Each drone carried specialized weapons designed to disable specific systems. Within hours, the Dominion orbital platforms found their shields failing, their weapons offline, and their communications severed. This is System Commander Velcor to any Dominion vessel, the alien commander broadcast desperately. We are under attack by an unknown force. Request immediate assistance. Admiral Morrison responded personally to the surrender request. Commander Velcor, this is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Your defenses have been neutralized. Surrender your facilities and no harm will come to your personnel. Earth Defense Force? But humans are primitives. You cannot possibly have the technology to defeat our defenses. Yet here we are, Morrison replied calmly. Will you surrender? The Dominion commander looked at his tactical displays, showing hundreds of disabled platforms and dead defensive systems. His small patrol fleet was hopelessly outnumbered, and his orbital fortifications were powerless. I surrender, Velcor said. Quietly, the fall of Kelvon sent shockwaves through the Dominion Empire. Within days, 3 more border systems had surrendered to advancing human fleets. The impossible was happening. The mighty empire was losing territory to a species they had dismissed as insignificant. Empress Zarathek convened an emergency session of her ruling council as reports arrived of system after system falling to human forces. The massive chamber buzzed with panicked conversations among her governors and military commanders. "The humans are advancing on a broad front," General Mordek reported. "Their fleet strength appears to be growing faster than we can respond. Current estimates suggest over 20,000 vessels." Governor Theklan of the industrial sectors stood to address the Empress. "Perhaps we should consider negotiation. These humans have proven their military capability." The Empress's roar silenced the chamber. "Negotiation? With primitives who dare assault the Dominion Empire? Never!" "But Empress," another governor protested, "they have already captured 4 of our systems. Our outer territories are beginning to declare independence." The news hit the Empress like a physical blow. Independence? Intelligence Officer Veltar confirmed the worst fears. Multiple Outer Rim governors have announced they will no longer pay tribute to the Empire. Some are requesting human protection. The Empress felt her carefully constructed empire beginning to crumble. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were suddenly finding the courage to rebel, inspired by humanity's impossible victory. Admiral Morrison received regular updates on the political situation within Dominion territory as his fleets continued their advance. The human strategy was working better than anyone had hoped. "Liberation movements are spreading throughout the Outer Rim," reported Intelligence Coordinator Dr. Sarah Peterson. "Dozens of species are declaring independence from the Empire." "What about the core worlds?" Morrison asked. Still loyal to the Empress, but growing nervous. "Human industrial capacity is becoming legendary among Dominion citizens. Many believe we are an unstoppable force." Morrison considered the implications. "We need to be careful not to become the very thing we are fighting against. Our goal is liberation, not conquest," Captain Bennett agreed. "The species declaring independence are asking for human protection rather than human rule. They want freedom, not a new master." The human advance continued for 3 more weeks, liberating system after system from Dominion control. Each victory brought new allies as previously conquered species joined the growing coalition against the Empire. Empress Zarathek found herself ruling an empire that was dissolving around her. Core world governors remained loyal, but the outer territories were gone. Half her fleet was destroyed or retreating. Her military commanders were demoralized, and her citizens were beginning to question her leadership. Status report, the Empress. Demanded during yet another emergency council session. 18 systems lost to human forces, General Mordek reported grimly. Another 12 have declared independence. Our effective territory has been reduced by 30%. And our fleet. Strength? Approximately 15,000 vessels remain combat-ready. The humans now outnumber us in their area of operations. The Empress stared at the strategic display showing red markers indicating lost territory. The sight would have been unimaginable just months ago when she ruled the largest empire in galactic history. Fleet Commander Kethvar, now commanding the reduced Dominion fleet, presented his assessment. "The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They adapt faster than we can respond. Their industrial capacity appears limitless." "What do you recommend?" the Empress asked. "Negotiation," Kethvar said quietly. "We cannot win a war of attrition against an enemy that builds ships faster than we can destroy them." The Empress's yellow eyes blazed with fury, but for the first time in her reign, she had no answer to offer. The primitive species that should have been conquered in weeks had become a threat to the foundation of her empire. Unknown to the Empress, Admiral Morrison was already preparing for the next phase of humanity's campaign. The liberation of the Outer Rim was just the beginning. The once mighty Dominion Empire was fracturing like glass under pressure. Empress Zarathek stood before the enormous tactical display in her war room, watching red indicators spread across systems that had been under Imperial control for centuries. 27 systems lost, reported General Mordek, his voice heavy with defeat. The humans show no signs of slowing their advance. How many species have declared independence? The Empress asked quietly. Intelligence Officer Veltar consulted his data tablet. 43 species across 62 worlds. Most are requesting human protection rather than attempting to defend themselves. The Empress turned away from the display, unable to face the evidence of her empire's collapse. What news from the core worlds? Loyalty remains strong among the established territories, General Mordek replied carefully. But there are reports of unrest. Citizens are questioning why the mighty Dominion cannot defeat a single primitive species. On the liberated world of Kelvon, Admiral Morrison met with representatives from newly independent species. The conference room aboard the UES Defiance hosted delegates from dozens of civilizations, each eager to discuss their future in a galaxy free from Dominion control. Ambassador Richard Barnes, Earth's chief diplomat, facilitated the discussions. The United Earth government wants to make our position clear. We did not come here to build a new empire. We came to offer freedom. Delegate Mortal from the Zelani species spoke for many of the gathered representatives. For 200 years, my people have served the Dominion as slaves. We do not seek a new master, but we also cannot defend ourselves alone. Which is why we propose the Free Worlds Alliance, Barnes replied. A voluntary association of independent species committed to mutual defense and cooperation. Captain Lisa Bennett provided military analysis. Human fleets will continue to patrol liberated territories and respond to threats, but each world will govern itself according to its own customs and laws. The proposal met with enthusiastic support from most delegates. Species that had lost hope of ever being free suddenly found themselves with choices they had never imagined possible. Vice Admiral Karen Foster coordinated the expanding human fleet operations from her command ship. Current strength is 4,000 vessels and growing. Automated shipyards are producing new designs optimized for long-range patrol and rapid response. Fleet Captain Tony Alexander added strategic assessment. Dominion resistance is weakening. Their remaining fleets avoid direct confrontation and focus on protecting core territories. Meanwhile, the Empress faced rebellion even among her most trusted advisors. In a private meeting with her inner circle, several governors expressed doubts about continuing the war against humanity. Governor Kelthak of the manufacturing worlds spoke carefully. Empress, our industrial output cannot match human production. They build 10 ships for every one we complete. Are you suggesting surrender? The Empress hissed. I am suggesting reality, Kelthak replied bravely. This war is destroying the Empire. Every day we continue fighting, we lose more territory and more species. General Mordek supported the governor's assessment. Our military situation is hopeless. Human tactical superiority combined with their industrial capacity makes victory impossible. The Empress's rage filled the chamber. Impossible? The Dominion. Empire has never been defeated. We will not be the first. But Empress, Intelligence Officer Veltar interjected, defeat has already occurred. We have lost nearly half our territory, and the humans show no signs of stopping. Admiral Morrison reviewed intelligence reports indicating growing unrest within remaining Dominion territory. His staff had gathered detailed information about the Empire's internal politics and military capabilities. Dominion fleet strength has stabilized at approximately 12,000 ships, reported Commander Ryan Phillips. They appear to be adopting a purely defensive strategy. Dr. Amy Richardson presented analysis of captured Dominion technology. Their weapons and defenses have not improved significantly. They seem unable to adapt to our tactical innovations. What about their industrial capacity? Morrison asked. Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez displayed production statistics. Dominion, shipyards are operating at maximum capacity, but their output is less than half of ours. Our automated systems give us an insurmountable advantage. Morrison studied the strategic situation. Recommendations for the next phase of operations? Captain Bennett consulted with the fleet commanders. Several options. We could continue the liberation campaign and push toward Dominion core worlds. Or we could consolidate our gains and strengthen the Free Worlds Alliance. There is a third option, suggested Strategic Coordinator Dr. Amy Richardson. Direct negotiation with the Empress herself. The idea surprised Morrison. You think she would negotiate? Intelligence suggests the Empress is under increasing pressure from her own advisors. Her empire is crumbling and her military options are exhausted. Meanwhile, Empress Zarathek received the most devastating report yet. Fleet. Commander Kethavar stood before her throne with news that would shake the foundation of her power. The Andorian system has fallen, Kethavar reported. Governor Velshan surrendered without firing a shot. His entire fleet defected to the humans. The Empress stood slowly from her throne. Defected? The ships and crews joined the human fleet. Voluntarily. They cited human promises of freedom and self-governance. The news hit the Empress like a physical blow. Military defections meant her own forces were losing faith in her leadership. How many ships? 300 vessels, including 2 battleships and a carrier group. General Mordek added more disturbing intelligence. Similar defections are reported. In 4 other systems, Dominion military personnel are abandoning their posts to join the human coalition. The Empress realized her empire was not just losing territory, it was losing the loyalty of her own people. What do the humans offer that we cannot? Freedom, Kethvar said simply. They promise each species the right to govern itself. No tribute, no forced military service, no imperial oversight. Anarchists, the Empress muttered. They will learn that freedom without order leads to chaos. But even as she spoke, the Empress knew her words lacked conviction. The human model of voluntary cooperation was proving more attractive than Dominion forced unity. Admiral Morrison received an unexpected communication request from the Dominion homeworld. The message came through diplomatic channels and bore the official seal of the Empress herself. This is Empress Zarathek of the Dominion Empire. The transmission began. I wish to open negotiations with the human leadership regarding the current conflict. Morrison exchanged glances with his senior staff. After months of refusing to negotiate, she wants to talk now? Ambassador Barnes analyzed the political implications. Her empire is collapsing around her. This might be an attempt to salvage what remains of her territory. Or it could be a trap, warned Captain Bennett. Morrison considered the options. Either way, we should hear what she has to say, but the negotiations will be held in neutral space with full security precautions. The Empress's request for negotiations spread through both human and Dominion territory within hours. For many, species still under imperial control, it represented the first real hope for freedom they had experienced in generations. But the Empress had her own plans for the upcoming negotiations. If she could not defeat the humans militarily, perhaps she could find another way to preserve her empire. The meeting would determine not just the future of the Dominion, but the entire political structure of the galaxy. As both sides prepared for the historic negotiations, neither realized that the galaxy itself was watching. The outcome would establish new principles of interspecies relations that would influence politics for centuries to come. The neutral station orbited a lifeless star system at the border between human and Dominion space. Built specifically for these negotiations, the massive structure represented the first time in galactic history that the Dominion Empire had agreed to meet another species as equals. Admiral Morrison walked through the airlock, flanked by Captain Lisa Bennett and Ambassador Richard Barnes. Behind them came a delegation representing not just humanity, but the 43 species that had already joined the Free Worlds Alliance. Empress Zarathek waited in the central conference chamber, her imposing 3-meter frame making even. The large space seemed smaller. General Mordek and Intelligence Officer Veltar flanked her, while Fleet Commander Kethvar stood at attention nearby. Admiral Morrison, the Empress said, her voice carefully controlled. You have traveled far for a primitive species. Morrison smiled slightly. Thank you for agreeing to these negotiations, Empress. Though I suspect the circumstances are not what either of us expected months ago. The Empress's yellow eyes flashed, dangerously, but she maintained her composure. Indeed, your species has proven more resourceful than anticipated. Ambassador Barnes activated the holographic conference table that displayed the current galactic situation. Red zones marked remaining Dominion territory, while blue areas showed liberated worlds and human-controlled space. Let us be direct about the situation, Barnes began. The Dominion Empire has lost nearly half its territory. Military defections continue daily. Your industrial capacity cannot match human production. You speak boldly for negotiators, General Mordek growled. We speak truthfully, Captain Bennett replied. Would you prefer we pretend the Empire is not collapsing? Empress Zarathek studied the galactic map with growing anger. The visual representation of her empire's decline was humiliating, but undeniable. What are your terms for ending this conflict? Morrison leaned forward. Complete independence for all species currently under Dominion control. Dissolution of the Imperial tribute system. Military forces reduced to defensive levels only. Impossible, the Empress snapped. You ask me to destroy everything my ancestors built. We ask you to give others the same freedom your ancestors enjoyed before they chose conquest, Barnes replied calmly. Delegate Mortal from the Zalani species spoke for the liberated worlds. Empress, my people served your empire for 2 centuries. We built your ships, mined your resources, fought your wars. What did we receive in return? Order, the Empress replied. Stability, protection from chaos. Slavery, Mortal corrected. My children were taken to serve in your military. My world's resources were stripped to feed your core planets. That is not protection, it is exploitation. The Empress turned to Fleet Commander Kethvar. Tell them about the threats the Empire protects against. The pirates, the raiders, the hostile species in the Outer Rim. Kethvar hesitated before responding. Empress, most of those threats were created by our own policies. Species turned to piracy because the tribute system left them desperate. Others became hostile because we conquered their neighbors. The Empress stared at her military commander in shock. You dare question Imperial policy? I state facts, Empress. The humans have eliminated more piracy in 3 months than we managed in decades. Their voluntary alliance creates stability through cooperation rather than fear. Dr. Amy Richardson presented data on the Free Worlds Alliance. Crime rates have dropped 70% in liberated territories. Trade has increased by 300%. Voluntary cooperation produces better results than forced compliance. Temporary improvements, the Empress argued. Without central authority, these alliances always collapse into chaos and war. Morrison activated another display showing human industrial and scientific achievements. Empress, humanity reached the stars through voluntary cooperation among our nations. We proved that freedom and progress can coexist. Your species is barely centuries old, the Empress scoffed. The Dominion has maintained order for 3,000 years. By crushing anyone who challenged that order, Barnes replied. How many species did you exterminate completely? How many civilizations were destroyed to maintain your version of stability? The question hung in the air like an accusation. The Empress had never been forced to justify the Empire's methods to its victims before. Intelligence Officer Veltar consulted his data tablet. Current military assessment indicates human fleet strength at 26,000 vessels. Our forces number 11,000 and declining due to ongoing defections. Why are our crews abandoning their posts? The Empress demanded. They see their families and friends gaining freedom in liberated territories, Kethvar explained. Many prefer the uncertainty of independence to the certainty of imperial service. Captain Bennett added tactical analysis. Empress, your remaining fleets are trapped in defensive positions around core worlds. You cannot advance without exposing those systems to liberation forces. The Empress realized her military situation was even worse than she had thought. You offer no compromise? No way to preserve some version of the Empire? Morrison considered, his response carefully. The core Dominion worlds are welcome to remain united if they choose, but that unity must be voluntary. Any species that wishes to leave must be free to do so. And my authority? Over those who choose to accept it, Barnes replied, but not over those who choose freedom. The Empress felt centuries of absolute power slipping away. What guarantees do I have that the Alliance will not simply conquer the remaining core worlds? The same guarantee we have given every liberated species, Morrison said. The right to self-determination. If the core worlds vote to remain under your rule, we will respect that choice. But you will not help me maintain control over unwilling subjects, the Empress said bitterly. No. Those days are over. General Mordek spoke quietly to the Empress. Perhaps we should consider the human proposal. The alternative is continued war against an opponent we cannot defeat. The Empress turned to study the galactic map again. Blue zones representing free worlds surrounded the shrinking red areas of Imperial territory. Her empire was dying, whether she admitted it or not. What happens to species that cannot defend themselves? She asked. Some worlds lack the resources for independent defense. The Free Worlds Alliance provides mutual protection, Delegate Mortal explained. Human fleets patrol trade routes and respond to threats, but each world governs itself. And if I refuse these terms? Morrison's expression hardened slightly. Then the liberation campaign continues. More of your fleet will defect. More territories will declare independence. Eventually, even the core worlds will abandon an empire that brings them nothing but war. The Empress looked around the conference table at representatives from dozens of species that had once bowed before her throne. Now they sat as equals, negotiating the end of everything she had known. I require time to consider your proposal, she said finally. Of course, Barnes replied. But understand that each day of delay means more defections and more lost territory. As the first day of negotiations concluded, both sides retired to separate sections of the neutral station. The Empress faced the most difficult decision of her reign, while Morrison prepared for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. The galaxy waited to learn whether 3,000 years of imperial dominance would end in negotiation or be swept away by the unstoppable tide of liberation that humanity had unleashed. The second day of negotiations began with shocking news that reached the neutral station through emergency channels. Intelligence Officer Veltar burst into the Empress's private chambers with reports that would change everything. Empress, we have received word from the core territories, Veltar said urgently. 3 more systems have declared independence overnight. Empress Zarathek felt the last foundations of her empire crumbling beneath her feet. Which systems? Korval, Teltani, and Zerion, combined population of 12 billion citizens. They have requested immediate inclusion in the Free Worlds Alliance. The Empress stared out at the stars beyond the station's viewports. Systems that had been loyal for centuries were abandoning her faster than she could process the reports. What reason did they give? The same as the others. They prefer voluntary cooperation to imperial rule. When negotiations resumed, Admiral Morrison could see the defeat in the Empress's posture. The proud ruler who had commanded half the galaxy now sat hunched over the conference table like any other tired negotiator. I have reviewed your terms, the Empress said quietly. They are harsh but not unexpected from victors. We do not consider ourselves victors, Morrison replied. We consider ourselves liberators. There is an important difference. Ambassador Barnes activated the treaty documents that had been prepared by legal experts from dozens of species. The Terra Accords establish principles of voluntary association and mutual defense while guaranteeing the right of self-determination for all species. The Empress studied the legal language that would formally end her empire. These accords would reduce the Dominion to perhaps 20 systems. Everything my ancestors built would be swept away, but those 20 systems would be populated by citizens who choose to remain, Captain Bennett pointed out. Willing subjects are stronger than reluctant slaves. Fleet Commander Kethvar supported the human position. Empress, forced loyalty breeds resentment and rebellion. Voluntary association creates genuine strength. The Empress looked at her military commander with surprise. You support their proposal? I support survival, Kethvar replied. The alternative is total collapse and possible civil war among the core worlds. General Mordek consulted the latest military reports. Human fleet strength continues to grow. Current estimates suggest over 28,000 vessels. Our remaining forces could not resist even if we wanted to continue fighting. Delegate. Mortal from the Zalani species offered an unexpected perspective. Empress, you could become the leader of a willing confederation rather than the ruler of a dying empire. The choice is yours. The Empress considered the strange concept of leadership based on consent rather than conquest. And if the core worlds vote to reject confederation, if they choose complete independence, then they would be free to make that choice, Morrison said simply, just as every other species in the galaxy should be free to choose. Dr. Amy Richardson presented the proposed structure of the Galactic Alliance. The Free Worlds Council would include representatives from all member species. Decisions would be made by consensus rather than imperial decree. Including human representatives? The Empress asked. Including everyone who chooses to participate, Barnes confirmed. Humanity seeks partnership, not dominance. The Empress felt a strange emotion she had not experienced in centuries, uncertainty about the future. For 3,000 years, the Dominion had imposed order through strength. Now these humans proposed order through cooperation. What guarantees do I have that this alliance will not become another empire with humanity at its head? She asked. Morrison smiled. The same guarantee every other species has. The right to leave if we fail to live up to our principles. The concept shocked the Empress. You would allow members to simply abandon the alliance? Of course. Forced membership would make us no different from your empire. Captain Lisa Bennett explained the enforcement mechanisms. The alliance maintains fleets for mutual defense and maintaining trade routes, but no member world can be compelled to remain against its will. Intelligence Officer Veltar reported the latest defection statistics. Empress, 18 more ships have requested transfer to Alliance service. Their crews cite better treatment and voluntary service terms. The Empress realized that even her own military preferred human leadership to imperial service. The revelation was both humiliating and enlightening. Very well, the Empress said finally. I accept your terms with one modification. Morrison leaned forward with interest. What modification? I request that the Dominion Core worlds be offered membership in your alliance as equal partners rather than being treated as a defeated enemy. The request surprised everyone at the negotiating table. Ambassador Barnes exchanged glances with Morrison before responding. That would be acceptable if the core worlds choose membership freely. And my personal status? The Empress asked. If your people choose to retain you as their leader, that is their decision, Morrison replied. The alliance does not interfere in internal governance of member worlds. Fleet Commander Kethvar spoke quietly to the Empress. This could be a new beginning rather than an ending. The Empress looked around the table at representatives from species that had once been her subjects. Now they offered her partnership instead of demanding revenge. Why do you show mercy to a conqueror? Morrison considered his answer carefully. Because conquest solves nothing. We have seen what 3,000 years of imperial rule accomplished. Now we want to try something different. And if this experiment in voluntary cooperation fails, then we will try something else, Morrison said simply. That is what free people do. They adapt and improve. The Empress stood slowly from the negotiating table. Then let us sign these accords and see if the galaxy can learn to govern itself through cooperation rather than conquest. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout human and Dominion space, watched by billions of citizens who had never imagined they would witness the end of the greatest empire in galactic history. Empress Zarathek placed her seal beside Admiral Morrison's signature, formally ending 3 millennia of imperial dominance. 6 months later, Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiance as it patrolled the trade routes between liberated worlds. The massive human fleet now numbered over 30,000 vessels, but their mission had changed from liberation to protection. Captain Bennett joined him at the viewport. Status report from the Free Worlds Council. 87 species have joined the Alliance. Trade volumes are up 400%. Piracy incidents have dropped to near zero. And the former Dominion core worlds? 14 of the 20 voted to join the Alliance. The Empress has been elected as their representative to the Council. Morrison smiled at the irony. From absolute ruler to elected representative. That must have been quite an adjustment. She seems to be adapting well. Her experience with galactic politics makes her a valuable council member. Commander Ryan Phillips reported from the communications station. Admiral, we are receiving a message from the new Andromedian species. They are requesting contact with the Alliance. Morrison turned from the viewport. Another species seeking freedom rather than conquest? It appears so, sir. They have heard about the Alliance and wish to discuss membership. As the UES Defiance changed course toward the Andromedan territories, Morrison reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. Where once there had been fear of imperial conquest, now there was hope for voluntary cooperation. The human principle of freedom through choice had spread far beyond Earth's solar system. The Empress's fury at humanity's defiance had indeed changed the galaxy, but not in the way she had intended. Instead of crushing human independence, her empire had been transformed into something entirely new, a voluntary alliance of free worlds working together for mutual benefit. The Age of Empires was ending, replaced by an age of cooperation that would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come. And at the center of it all, humanity stood not as conquerors, but as the species that had dared to prove that freedom was stronger than force.